Not as humid, though.
Yeah, that's humid. All right, fire away, guys.
I know you've met with a lot of these tribes.
There's a lot that goes into playing this game, but having the support off the field is so important. And I think a lot of guys, like you mentioned, are very, very well equipped for this type of role.
When it comes to these private workouts with some of these quarterbacks, what does it look like? What do you like to see? And what do you hope to gain from it all?
Yeah, I think when you're seeing a quarterback throw live, obviously you have the pro day, which is scripted, and they've run through that script, and they have their receivers, and it's very efficient, and they do a great job. Also, the nice part then at a private is you can kind of put them on your own script, and you can ask them to make a couple throws or put them out of order or challenge them a little bit. Or I think maybe the coolest thing to do is give them a coaching point. Say, hey, try and take 2 steps off of that drop, or let's see if we can throw it this way, or put your eyes here, and just watch them take coaching. So I think that private, you have a little bit more say in the evaluation piece right there on the grass. But either way, you get to up close see how the ball comes out of the quarterback's hand.
Kevin, what do you say about
I think it goes back to Chris's question. A very impressive young man, has been coached really well. Joe Judge is down there as his quarterback coach, and Joe's former NFL head coach, former special teams coach, offense, defense. So Joe kind of knows the game, so you can tell that he's been really well coached and brought along the right way in this game. So impressive off the field, and then did a nice job on the field as well.
A quick follow-up on Barrett. I know some of the concerns that people have raised is maybe the style of offense that he played in at Ole Miss. It being a spread-out RPO offense, how do you kind of just evaluate the trend? How it seems like that could translate to the NFL?
Yeah, I think that's probably overstated. I don't know that there's a huge difference in what colleges are doing and what people are doing in the pros these days. There's certainly elements that you're going to ask a quarterback to do differently regardless of what school he came from. So I don't think that there's a concern there.
Kelvin, Milroe's a runner, and it doesn't seem to fit your type of quarterback. Why is that? Why is he being considered so seriously about that?
Yeah, I don't see him just as a runner, Tony. That's certainly an element of his game. God's blessed him with the ability to make plays with his feet when necessary, but he's made plenty of throws in his career. So again, another really impressive young man. Having getting down there, spending some time with him and his family, I think he's again done a really nice job just throughout this process. I don't know if I'd say improvement. I mean, obviously, I know Senior Bowl. You get in the 7-on-7 or that type of drill. So this is on air. But yeah, I think you're always looking at mechanics and how you could help a player. But yeah, I think the biggest thing, Tony, is it's such a body of work. It's such an all-encompassing thing when you're talking about evaluating these guys. So you don't want to say, hey, he had a great throwing session that one day, that shoots him up your draft board. You take all of this into account. No, I'm not ready to turn the card in yet, Mary Kay. I think the whole process is really important to me and to us. And there's still quarterbacks that we haven't seen throw live, still haven't gotten to spend time with them. We have guys that we're still going to bring up for our 30. And then we have our coaches' meetings. As you know, you have lots of meetings in the personnel department, and you have February meetings and you have March meetings, and then we have our final April meetings with the coaches, and you get to solidify the order. But I told you guys this before, I'll say it again. I like a lot of guys in this class, not just the quarterback position. I think this is an exciting time because there's really, really good football players.
Will there be other workouts with quarterback besides shooting?
Well, probably not, but I should say this. We're covered making sure we see all these guys.
Kevin, what will OTAs and training camp, what's different because you'll have the rookie quarterback? Whether you're getting that guy ready to play in September or November or whatever.
Yeah.
Will it be subtle or maybe not so subtle?
Let's get through the draft, see what it looks like. But, yeah, I think you're always going to try to maximize reps as best you can with the rules at how they're written to make sure that you give all positions a chance to give a good accounting of themselves. But let's get through the draft first.
Whoever you get, when that guy plays, is that completely dependent on who it is and what the situation is? And you put a timeline on it?
quarterback position?
Yeah.
A lot of questions about the quarterback position. Yeah, of course. I think every situation is different. Every player is different. What they're ready to do and when they're ready to do it, you just have to trust in your ability to discern that with them in your building. So I think that totally varies by player.
We spoke a lot to AB yesterday about Travis Hunter as a prospect on both sides of the ball. But as a wide receiver, what do you like about his skill set and how he could fit in maybe your offense?
Yeah, he's an outstanding player, an outstanding young man. Fun to spend time with him. Elite ball skills. I don't know if there's been better. Truly, this kid's special when the ball's in the air. He's had a ton of production in the college game, and then by the way, he's doing it for both sides of the ball. But as a receiver, obviously, I think room to grow, but certainly has elite ball skills.
Will you do a separate workout with Hunter, or will he join Shedeur?
I think he'll do at the same time.
Will he do any quarterbacks for you?
I'm not sure about that yet. Yeah, I think it's a good question, Jason. I think a lot of every team is having that discussion. I think he's very capable of both. How you structure it, where you start him, quote unquote, is really important to figure out. I could see both sides of it. I could see him as a wide receiver that moonlights at defensive back. The easier thing that you've seen over the years is the defensive back that then gets package of plays. So every team is talking through that and how they would structure it, but this is a unique young man and his ability to do both. Yeah, very excited about Kenny. We've had him up into our building and just the brief time talking to him, understanding what he knows about this game and how he's been coached. I caught up with some of his former coaches in Philly and filled me in on the type of person, type of player. So excited for Kenny and the opportunity, see what he's capable of, and he's got the right makeup for it.
Yesterday, you said he fits what the offense you guys are. What does that mean?
Yeah, I think he's a very intelligent, accurate passer, but he's somebody that you've seen it from him. He's made plays in games. He's won football games with great decision making. He's a plus athlete. I've seen him make all the throws, so I really think he fits in whatever you're planning on doing. But talented overall player. Ball skill. You're saying like ball handling? Yeah, he does a nice job. I think all those guys, Tony. You're always coaching them hard in that area because if you are running play action from under center, from the gun, there are a lot of nuances to those that you want to be able to master.
So you didn't talk Philly with Abdul Carter last week, but I assume you did when he came to us.
Yeah, we talked a lot. He went to LaSalle High School. I went to St. Joe's Prep, and that's like oil and water. So right away I said, hey, did you know where I went to high school? He said, yeah, I heard. I said, is this going to be a problem? They said no. So we broke the ice, but very, very impressive young man. I know a lot of people that know him, whether going back to high school and certainly throughout his college, but really, really impressive young man.
Kevin, are you more involved this year with specifically the quarterbacks than maybe you have been even in the past in terms of this time period? I'm not saying it's never, but I mean, has it evolved?
Well, I think the rare part is obviously having the second overall picks at the top of the round. You want to be able to see these guys, so we've seen them live. That'd be the difference this year.
How much exposure you have to running backs in this game? Are you relying on Andrew and the scouting?
No, quite a bit. I watch all the positions. Obviously I'll narrow down on certain ones that we feel like are you want to get a very good understanding of them, but I've seen quite a bit of them, and then I trust Andrew, I trust Deuce Staley, and all our guys as we evaluate them.
Given on the free agency, so you guys both on the offensive line and defensive line, what excites you about the guys you have anticipated on the edge and the ends for this group?
On the defensive end? Yeah, impressed. Joe Tryon's a guy that we feel confident has a lot in his body. Impressive, having him in the building. I think he's excited about the opportunity. So we're always looking to add good players. As you know, you can never have enough of those. Yeah, I mean, I feel good. Obviously, it's March 31st, so there's still a draft to be had. There's still it's not August 1st. So I will say this: Kenny Pickett's a guy that I believe in, that we believe in. So we'll see how it all shakes out.
I'm sure you and Schwartz have talked about a dual Carter. Does Schwartz see him as a more of a Micah Parsons move all over the place, or 4-3?
I think he's capable, certainly, Tony. He's been an off-the-ball linebacker. He's been an edge rusher. He's rushed from the inside. So certainly when you're evaluating a player, a lot of the discussion then turns into fit and how you would utilize said player. So we've had a lot of conversations with Jim and the defensive staff on all these guys. And obviously Abdul is somebody you talked about where you would line him up. And I don't think there's a limiting factor there where you would put him.
The 2 years he hasn't had a guy like that where he moves.
Yeah, I guess I'd push back a little bit on moving guys around. Like we've moved Miles certainly around in different spots. There's,
Stand up, stand down.
yeah, I think there's linebackers over the years that we've used as well. So I don't think it'd be that's certainly not something that would hold us back, for instance.
Kevin, sorry if you answered this already.
Yeah.
Deshaun and his whole situation, I guess where's he kind of stand?
Rehabbing, doing a great job with the rehab. He's in there every single day, working very hard, but he's where he's supposed to be in the rehab, and then we'll just kind of take that one day by day.
Do you have any kind of projection of maybe, not out for the season, or if he's going to be?
I really don't. Not at this point. I think the most important thing for him is to attack this rehab, and he's doing that.
When you evaluate, when you came out last season, you evaluated everything. Kind of going back to Zach's question about the okay stuff, but training camp, and do you look and say, the amount of contact, the amount of physicality, I realize there's a balance you have to. Have you tried to look at, how you kind of structure camp and that sort of thing to,
Yeah. Well, you look at it every year, and you look at it, what you're doing, what other teams are doing, how they're doing it, what fits you, what maybe doesn't fit you. It's a balance because you want to make sure that you're doing everything in the spirit of getting your team ready to play a 17-game-plus season. You're also making sure that you want to have a team that's healthy in January, February, but you got to get ready. So there's things that you look at every single year to try to figure out the best way to do that.
So you have this high pick that you never want to have again.
Correct.
You haven't needed quarterback. So if it's close to that, push it towards quarterback.
Yeah, from where I sit, I'm excited that we're going to get a really, really good football player on this roster. That's for us to talk through in terms of which player that is, or if it's a trade back. You're moving back, you're still getting players you like, and you're picking up players. So I think everything is available to us, but I think it's something that we'll talk through over the course of the next month.
Did you recommend the West Lake to
That's the easiest no comment of all time. He's an extremely talented football player. Again, getting to know the kid, you watch the tape, and you. I think the important part as an evaluator is you want to talk to the player about plays and how he plays, and I think he sees the game really, really well. Has been raised the right way. I think they've done an outstanding job bringing him along in terms of understanding football. But he's a very, very talented young man. But off the field is where I'm probably most impressed. Yeah. I think throwing live is another piece of this. That's a small piece, but a piece of it. Getting around him, going to dinner is important. But then the whole process, then getting in and listening to the rest of the coaches, the rest of the scouts, how they see the entire draft board. But certainly Shedeur is somebody that, I think has done a really nice job throughout this process.
Lucky's still a young player.
Yeah.
Considering you're going to draft him, you got a need for like a mentor, 30-plus-year-old quarterback on your team?
It's a good question, Tony. I think we'll see how it all shakes out, see how that quarterback room shakes out over the course of the next month, after the draft. But I do feel good about Kenny where he is.
So, a lot of these guys who have 2, 3, years, 4 years of camp, 5. You have a lot of years of tape of these guys in game action. how do you balance what you see? You know, how much can what goes on these 2 or 3 months, between the season and the draft overshadow those?
It's a good question, Chris. And these guys have a ton of starts, and the tape is the most important piece of this. The tape is your resume. It's the thing that we look at the hardest. And when I say the tape, the overall evaluation of the player on tape. Having said that, there's a lot that goes into a person's makeup that you have to spend time with them to get to know. So certainly our scouts do a great job of information gathering throughout the fall and understanding who the players are. But I think you want to rhythm up with the players. You want to get to know them. You want your coaches to get to know them. You want to put them through, put them through an install. We kind of put our guys through a bit of a test, and when we go and meet with them and give them a playbook and see what they retain and that type of thing. So that's the piece that you can't measure on the tape, and that's an important part of this process for us. Yeah, I mean, I'm as close as you can be without getting in the way of the quarterback. But yeah, Tommy and Bill really run the workout, and we have a nice operation there.
Shador is kind of a unique quarterback because obviously he's out as a Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
And he's come into the NFL with a little bit of a celebrity status that we don't typically see in quarterbacks. Does that present, do you have to evaluate him in a different sense, or do you feel like he's just, one of every prospect?
Well, like I mentioned before, he's been raised the right way. He's got a great way about him. Obviously, when you're the son of a Hall of Famer, there's a lot that goes with that. But I think he's gotten a lot. I think the benefits of that have been really impressive for him. I think you see a young man that understands what comes with this job, understands the work that goes into this job. So I'd say it's been a very big positive.
Yesterday, Andrew said that very unlikely to trade up
I mean, sitting here at the second overall pick, Tony, the exciting part is there's a lot of really good football players in this draft. If we stay there at 2, I know we're getting an outstanding football player to our team.
Andrew said he's for using the whole shot clock. So if you get to Thursday afternoon and you don't know, what would that be like for you?
Yeah, I'll be tuning in like the rest of us. Again, I think it goes back to everybody wants to know who you're picking in February, then in the middle of March, and anybody who says they know what we're doing, it's just not the case. We don't know what we're doing yet, and I say that because we're taking in all the information. Certainly there's guys that you're circling, if you will, but we want to get through this process before we make any determination.
I was going to say, you kind of alluded to, in your mind, as you go through the process, there are guys kind of circling on your mind. As a head coach and as an offensive play caller, how much will you kind of pound the table for maybe your guy?
No, the guys we're circling are good football players, whether they're offense or defense, that will help our football team. So there will be no standing on tables. These are outstanding football players.
Not even for a quarterback that you really believe in?
I believe in all these guys, and I understand the question. Nothing is going to stop us from taking any of these positions. I don't think there's any desire to have to take this position, have to take that position. We're going to get a really, really good football player, and I'm excited about how that is going to impact our football team.
Speaking of the circle that we're talking about, what about outside the circle? Are you opposed to having 2 quarterbacks?
No, not opposed. Again, it's got to see how this shakes out, this draft shakes out. But I believe I've been on staffs where we've had 2 rookies, QBs. Mary Kay, I think it's so dependent on the player. Bill Musgrave on our staff, he was with Matt Ryan when he was drafted, and he started right away. We all know Green Bay famously has sat their guys for a year. Mahomes sat for a year. So it's so dependent on the player and the situation, the team that you have. So those are all discussions that we would have based on where we are. But those are the type of decisions that don't get made until into the summertime.
You said yesterday that the next step in this process is drafting taking all the information from the evaluation. What's your role in that kind of process? Maybe and I'm not going to hear, but your role in this process, meeting with the scouts and collecting all the information to create that strategy.
Yeah, I try to be an asset and a resource to Andrew and our entire staff. Like AB said, a lot of what we're doing in April now is, we do have other picks other than this number 2 pick, so we have to get ready for those and understand how the rest of this draft is going to shake out. And, we want to spend time in understanding what trades may come to us, what trades we may want to get involved in. So that becomes the strategy part, I think, as you get closer to the draft.
Tevin Jenkins, tackle or guard?
Football player. Excited about him. He's a wired the right way, a guy that we have done a lot of work on when he was coming out, but big physical guy that we'll get to work with him and Coach Bloomgren and our coaches will get their arms around him, and we'll kind of determine that as we go. We're going to practice versus the Panthers in week 1 at Carolina, so we'll go down there for 1-day practice, and then we'll go to Philly week 2 and practice twice versus them. We will come home in between. Yes. Tony's figuring out which golf course he's going to check out. I know you are.
You know when day that game is?
Off the top of my head, I don't.
You know anything about London yet?
I don't. Do you?
No.
Chris, do you?
I didn't come to the other side of the ocean.
Would you ideally go for 2 days, 7 days? What do you think?
We're working through it. Have studied when people go over and have a decent feel for when that's going to be, but we'll let you guys know later. Yeah, I think I don't get caught up, as you know, in the name of our offense and what it is and that type of thing. I believe in our system. I believe in our coaches that are going to implement this system. We just want to be multiple. We want to be versatile. We want to be able to run the ball, throw the ball, and really make sure that the most important players on our team are impacting the game. Obviously, you mentioned Nick. We'll see how it all plays out. This is obviously the business of football, like we talked about before, but we'll see how it shakes out.
Milrow connection aside, what is Tommy's role in just input and evaluation here? He knows more than Milrow. He just knows him probably the best.
Yeah, I mean, he knows a lot of these college quarterbacks when you're in the game and you're in recruiting and that type of thing. So has a very interesting perspective on all these players. He's played the position at a high level. So certainly leaning on him on what he believes in, both in the evaluation on the tape and the evaluation of the player when you meet with them and the evaluation of the player when you're seeing them throw live. I mean, obviously, when you've coached a player, all those Alabama players, you lean in and you find out everything there is to know about the players. I mean, that's obvious. Jalen's a young man that played really well for Tommy. They won a lot of football games. He's still growing as a football player, too. It's kind of one of the things we talked about yesterday is nobody's a finished product when you come into the NFL. So excited about all these guys in terms of what type of jump they could have in their career. Yeah, as a backup tackle, you really have to play that role where jumping from right to left is easy for you, and it's something he's done in his career. I think he's comfortable playing on both sides. So versatility is important whether you're a backup or a starter, but certainly if you are the 6th offensive lineman, 7th offensive lineman, you have to be able to play both sides. Oh. Yep. Well, I don't know anything about stadiums, but I do know something about teamwork, and I just, I don't pay real close attention, but I do know this: when you're talking about these type of things, you need to work together. So that's state, that's city, that's county, that's the Browns, and I trust in all those people to work together to get something done for our fans. I think that's the big part of this is getting something done for the fans of this team, all of Northeast Ohio. I think it'll be important, but it goes back to working together, which is something I know a little bit about.
Where were you when you found out that Miles was open to reconciliation and signing that deal.
I don't remember the specifics, Daniel, other than really good dialogue throughout those couple weeks with his group, so knew that was always a possibility. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, he looks healthy, looks ready to roll, excited for Dave. I think that's such a big part of this is making sure that you're healthy, and unfortunately he wasn't at times last season. So excited for Dave to feel really good, running around, moving around. He looks good, so I think he'll be ready to roll. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd really see how it all shakes out. That's something that Andrew and crew will look at. Yeah, good question, Justine. I think, we're looking for tough and competitive guys, and guys that we can get into our program. We can develop them, and to be able, you think about all these young players. I think player development is something that's very important to me and are important to our organization. But in order to be able to invest in these guys in the building, you want guys that love football, that love this game, that love to compete. So that's part of what we were talking about earlier, getting the full understanding of these players, of their makeup. Once you understand that, now you really understand. We as coaches know we can invest in them and get the best version of them over the course of their career. Yeah. It's a good question. Yeah, I think, listen, the landscape of college football is so different. It's not like the old days. So, of course, you're going to see a different type of player. But at the end of the day, these are young men. These are people that we still want to understand what makes them tick, what's important to them, how much they love this game, because while all those things are good for them, and NIL and that type of thing, we believe in that because it benefits the players, we also know that we want guys that love this game, that love to be coached, that want to be developed. That's such a huge part of this. No. Yeah, it does not. No. Really, no. I'd say has been well coached, so no. That's a really good question. The quarterback sneak is the most effective play on 1 yard to go, third and 1, 4th and 1. Whether you push or not, I think that's part of our game that's never going away. We had Jacoby there for a couple of years. Jacoby was outstanding at quarterback sneaks, and he did not want to be pushed. He said, "Get everybody away from me." And so I think there's elements where when you do have those pushers in there, you're not allowing the quarterback to pick the ball up and sneak over to the C gap to the right, sneak over to the C gap to the left. So if you do that, you're kind of saying we're going one way. You have plays now as teams try to sell out and stop that play. You have perimeter plays that have come off of that, and you've seen that over the course of time. So to eliminate a quarterback sneak from getting pushed, I don't know that it's something that needs to be legislated out of the game. The injury data is not there for it, so I would be in favor of keeping the rules as they are. You're welcome, Coach Sirianni. Yeah, it does. And you should. What should you mentioned stopping it? It's 3rd and 1, 4th and 1. How often should that succeed? It's about 90%. So if you want to sell out and stop inside of 1, you're going to make yourself susceptible to a play on the perimeter or a pass. And I think you've seen that. So I'm in favor of the rules how they're written right now. We've run a lot of quarterback sneaks over the years, Mary Kay. We've done it. Mentioned Jacoby, Harrison Bryant. So the quarterback sneak is something that we believe in. Whether we push or not doesn't change the mechanics a lot very much. But Coach Bloom, if you're around an offensive line coach or that loves to sneak and wedge and come off the ball, like Coach Bloom understands the job. He understands what's entailed there. I think he's excited about coaching the technique, and then we'll see how we get out from these meetings on what's allowed and what's not allowed. Yeah, I think everybody, I would imagine every team aggregates them. You weigh certain ones maybe more than others, no disrespect. But I think it does try to help you understand what the conventional wisdom is outside your building. I have not, but I'm open to it. I don't know.
Yeah. You mentioned using mock drafts.
You want to take one more?
Does anybody have a more serious question? Because mine was a little off.
We'll do two more. Yeah,
you mentioned like using mock drafts. I think there was a quote from Eric DeCosta talking about using like Madden rating, something like that. What's the most? Is there like a offbeat type of tool that you guys use that maybe people wouldn't think that an NFL or franchise would use to kind of scout players?
I don't think so. I mean, like I said, like mock drafts have been around forever. And there's certain mock drafts that are more plugged in than others, and I think that's important for us to understand that. So there are people responsible for looking at all of them and understanding where players are going based on mock drafts, and then you do your calls with different people where you're trying to get intel on different positions, and all of that goes into the decision on. It's important for us to know where we think guys are being drafted because that helps your draft strategy. But there's a lot that goes into it, not just mock drafts.
What were you doing during the top 5 of the draft for the last 3 years?
I was in the building. I had it on, but I think I was probably just doing some busy work.
So you talked about all the wonderful players that take that number 2. Would you be disappointed if Andrew trades down from 2?
I wouldn't, because guess what? There's a lot of players I like. It's not just 3 or 4. I mean, wherever he would move back, there'd be a really good football player. I feel really strongly about this draft, just having spent some time with it. And it's not just the top of the draft. I think really throughout this draft, there's some really good players. Okay, thanks, guys. Good to see you.
Hoping we can visit like a couple weeks. All right. Yes, did you say one